Welcome to Florida Education News. My name is Dr. Tony Arza, and today I have the honor of sitting down with a sitting board member in Polk County Public School, Justin Sharpless, who's also running for re-election. Thanks so much for sitting down with us today.
Thank you, Dr. Arza. I appreciate it.
So it's election time in Florida, and the voters in Florida are try to be as informed as they can when they go to the ballot box to make an informed decision that's going to impact their community. And one of the things that Florida Education News and I myself really want to make sure that we do is give board members the opportunity to introduce themselves so that people can know a little bit about them, right? The least that we can do to make sure that people are informed when they go to the ballot box. But I want to know a little bit about you and why you're running for school board, what made you want to get involved in the first place?
Sure. So I'll say I'm born and raised in Polk County. Graduated from Lake Wells High School. Married a girl from Polk County as well. We're raising 3 little boys in Polk County. I love Polk County. I'm glad to be here and glad to raise my family in a place like Polk County. I decided to run for school board because when my first son was born, I started thinking, how can I impact my future of my son and give him the best education possible? And so I just got involved in the school district. I didn't even have the idea of school board member out there, and so I called my school board member and I said, hey, I want to get involved. And so now as a sitting school board member, I know when someone does that, you're like, hey, yeah, we want to take advantage of that. I want to get them in the helping us out, in our committees. So he put me on a couple committees. I was on the superintendent search committee, which was interesting now that I work alongside our current superintendent. And so, I got involved. And so then I started watching school board meetings. And I said, you know what, I can do that. And so, I just want to be able to sit, at the end of the day, I want to be able to sit with my kids, when I tuck them in at night and say, your dad did everything he could to give you the best education possible. And I want that for all the kids in Polk County. And so that's really my why.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful image. I mean, I myself am also a parent, and I also want to tuck my kids in at night and think about the same thing. So that's a great motivating. Most people, I think today, realize that in the political environment, it's not easy to run for office. You expose yourself to attacks, and it's not easy. And the political warfare, lawfare, culture wars, all these things that are going on, you expose yourself to a lot when you decide to serve the community. What made you willing to take on those risks? Why is it so important that you are involved in education?
Yeah, so I will just tell you, my whole family is involved in education. My mom's a high school science teacher. My wife is a high school agriculture teacher. My dad is now in our district, but he taught. My brother teaches. So we're a family of educators. So when I sit around the table with my family at dinner, I sometimes say, hey, we're not talking about any school board business here. I just want to be your son, or I want to be your husband, right? But no, in all seriousness, I hear, at the dinner table, I have boots on the ground there, and so I hear what concerns there are, and so along with being a dad, like I said before, I also care about our teachers and our educators and our school system. So that's really what made me decide to get in and throw my hat in the ring, 4 years ago. I've always been told you can either complain about something, but if you complain about something, you better go out there and try to do something about it, right? You can't just sit there and sit on the sidelines, and so I said, you know what, I'm going to try this. And I've really enjoyed it. I've gotten to make a lot of friends in the process. I'm the vice president of the Florida School Boards Association, so I got to meet a lot of people there, which helped me become a better school board member, mentoring and things like that. So, I think overall, like I said, my why is really helping our staff, and most importantly, and why we're here, is to help our kids.
Yeah, and one of the things that people don't really realize is they ask themselves, what does a board member do? They don't necessarily understand the dynamics of the role of a board member. You have a unique position because you're running for re-election. You're not a new candidate, but as someone running for re-election, it means you've served for 4 years. And what are some of the things you're most proud of from those 4 years looking back? But what work do you think is still left to be done that motivated you to say, you don't hang up the boots and you go, well, we did it, right? Could you kind of share a little bit about that?
Sure. So by far the most important and what I'm most proud of is our district moving from a C district grade to a B district grade, improving the academic outcomes for our kids. Because we know if we improve those academic outcomes, they become more competitive in post-secondary environments. And really at the end of the day, our job is to help produce productive citizens in our society. And taxpayers to help to help us out. Some of the students today are going to be paying taxes when I'm retired. And so I would say moving that from a C to a B district, which means now there's one more move we have to make, right? Go from a B to an A. So when you talk about things how we can improve on, that's certainly part of it. We have, in recent memory at least, a historic high in our graduation rate. For all of our Polk County Public Schools, we have a 92.7% graduation rate. Very excited about that. We've had a 57% increase in our industry certifications. So that's giving kids credentials to go out there and become competitive in the job market. So those things I'm super proud of. Another thing that I'm really proud of too is how we've helped make our schools safe. One thing that we've done is we've partnered with the best sheriff in the entire country, Sheriff Grady Judd, and we started a Safe Stop initiative. And so what we've done is we put cameras on our stop arms for our buses. And so when, we all know whenever that bus stops and he or she puts out that stop sign, it's important that our citizens stop and our drivers stop, because if not, that could be a fatality or an injury of a kid, And so now they've been warned. If they're passing our buses, they will get ticketed. And Sheriff Judd, as we know, is very he's very adamant about the safety of our children. And so I'm very blessed and proud to have had his endorsement as well because of our partnership. Some other things we do to keep our kids safe: we've had perimeter fencing, single point entry. We have a school guardian or a school resource deputy at every school. And one of the decisions that we made that I'm also very proud of is we went from having our school resource officers and school resource deputies be from different municipality police offices, police departments, or the sheriff's office. Now we have all of our schools are under the sheriff. All right, and so it's one point of communication, one set of policies and procedures, and one point of communication, which is important.
Well, no, and I think that everyone agrees that the one thing that we care about most as parents, and this as a parent, is to make sure that our kids are safe at night.
Absolutely.
The environment in Florida is shifting. Mm-hmm. Things have changed very quickly in the past 3 years. You now have universal school choice. Mm-hmm. It's the law of the land in Florida. But there have been some board members that have pushed back against that. They've been outspoken against the school choice movement. And a lot of the voters and citizens of Florida want to know, where does Justin Sharpless stand on school choice?
Unapologetically, I'm a free market capitalist. Competition breeds excellence. And so I am 100% supportive of the school choice environment. It's important for parents, as a parent myself, it's important to empower our parents to let them make the choices that are best for their kids. When I drop off my kids at school every day, they don't become property of the state, right? They're still my kids. And so it's important that we give our parents all the knowledge and all the opportunity to make the best decision for their kids.
Yeah, and I was actually recently, and don't ask me why, but I was in New Jersey, and I'm happy to be back in Florida. But someone had mentioned that just the fact that now parents are involved in the decisions, that we've already improved the quality of education because we've included them in the decision-making process, and that's already Absolutely. A lot better for the kids. The other thing that people don't realize is that school board members are responsible for a very large budget, mm-hmm. a multi-billion-dollar budget in the case of Polk County. I'm just
Polk County's $2.5 billion.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a lot of money. And how do you make sure that those dollars are working for the people in the community? Because it's a lot of money, and a lot of people, every day they're struggling. They're struggling to pay for groceries. They're struggling to pay for gas. Things are getting more expensive. The affordability crisis is real for the voters and citizens of Florida. How do you try to make sure that those taxpayer dollars are being spent wisely? How do you make sure they're working for the people in the community? And how, if you are reelected, how will you make sure that those budget dollars are going towards the things that they're supposed to?
Yeah, so I will say first, the government closest to you is the one that represents you the best. And so what we've done in Polk County is we've created committees of our citizens and got them involved. We have a 0.5-cent sales tax in Polk County that goes to capital improvements, and we actually have an oversight committee for that. And I've appointed people to that. Every board member does, and these are citizens that volunteer their time to make sure that the projects we're doing best align with our district goals and are the best cost effective too. Giving people, empowering people to have that oversight is very important. We've also done another one, a community finance committee that it's going to be members that are CFOs of organizations or community leaders that have a finance background. These are people that know what they're doing, I think, yes, we have the best intentions, but we're never perfect. No one's perfect, right? So enabled to have people come in and just honest feedback. Hey, you could be improving in this area, and I've never felt like that we have it perfect. There's always room for improvement, but I would say that we're doing all right.
So look, is there anything else that you think that voters and citizens of Florida should know about you and about your run for re-election?
Yeah, so I would say that my colleagues around the state have respected me to the point where they've elevated me to leadership statewide of school boards. And so, yes, the average citizen, absolutely, talking to them, but these are people that are in the trenches. These are fellow school board members that are out there making decisions for all the entire state, and they've believed in my leadership, and that's very humbling, to have that. I just recently was just elected to vice president, like I said, and so when the experts, so to speak, vouch for you, that's important. I in addition to being a school board member, I'm also a college professor. I told you I'm an educator, right? And part of my role as an educator is I'm in charge of our internship program. And so I'm out there talking to business and industry. How can we best supply them with, my graduates at the college level, but it also trickles down to the high school level. So I'm thinking about our students with the end in mind. What's going to be the best for our business community, to provide the talent that they need. And so, yes, I'm an educator, but I also am in the business world because I'm constantly trying to figure out what best way to meet their needs.
Well, look, it's been a pleasure to sit down with you and to get to know a little bit about you, and I wish you the best of luck in your race.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.